The cameras flashed like angry stars, blinding but not as blinding as the humiliation. Tonight was supposed to be Rowan's triumph, but he'd made it his wife Anna's trial. Standing on the steps of the Metropolitan Museum, he looped his arm not around Anna, but around Irina, his mistress, letting the photographers capture the blatant betrayal. He smirked, whispering to Irina, "Just try to keep up, Anna. The real players are here." He thought his wife was just quiet, simple, old money, background noise. He thought she was nobody. But in 2 hours a king would take the stage, and Rowan would learn that the nobody he'd just discarded was the one person who owned his entire world. The penthouse on Central Park South was a monument to glass, steel, and silence. It was Rowan Thorne's monument to himself. For his wife Anna, it was a beautiful, sterile prison, perched 48 floors above a city she couldn't touch. Anna traced the rim of a porcelain teacup, the morning sun illuminating the expensive empty space around her. Every object in the $30 million apartment had been chosen by Rowan's decorator to scream, "New money." Power chrome sculptures, vast, empty white sofas, and abstract art that was loud, but said nothing. Her only contribution, a small, quiet 17th century Dutch landscape, was relegated to her dressing room, which Rowan called the museum. Rowan Thorne, founder and CEO of Helios Dynamics, was a man who had built an empire on solar energy and sheer brutal ambition. He had met Anna Vance at a Sotheby's charity auction 3 years prior. He saw a woman of quiet, understated elegance, with a knowledge of art and history that spoke of a good family and old established connections. He saw Anna Vance, a Vance, of the Boston Vances he'd assumed. She was beautiful, poised, and most importantly, unassuming. She would be the perfect, polished accessory for a man on the rise. Anna, for her part, had just wanted to be Anna Vance. She had grown up suffocated by protocol security and the crushing weight of a title she never asked for. She'd been granted a gap year, which had stretched into 2, to study art history in New York under an assumed, simplified name. She'd yearned for a life where she could be loved for her mind, for her quiet humor, for herself, not for the flag on her family's car. When Rowan pursued her, he was charming, driven, and seemed to adore her quiet nature. He didn't want to be in the spotlight he'd claimed. He just wanted to build. So she'd agreed to marry him, a complex arrangement that her father had reluctantly sanctioned. Her family, operators of one of the world's most powerful and discreet sovereign wealth funds, saw Helios Dynamics as a promising, if volatile, investment. They had agreed to fund Rowan's vision, routing the capital through a labyrinth of shell corporations and anonymous equity firms. The primary one was simply known as the Eldorian Sovereign Fund. Rowan, blinded by his own ego, believed he had simply wooed a faceless, risk-averse European fund. He had no idea the majority stakeholder he sent quarterly reports to was in fact his wife. The last year had seen the rot set in. As Helios Dynamics boomed, Rowan's charm had evaporated, replaced by a cold, cutting arrogance. He found her quietness was no longer poised. It was boring. Her practicality was unimaginative. Her disinterest in fame was a liability. The sound of his bedroom door opening pulled her from her thoughts. Rowan emerged, knotting a black silk tie. He didn't kiss her. He barely looked at her. "Anna," he said, tapping his phone. "The car is downstairs in 30 for the fitting. I need you to look perfect tonight. This gala, it's everything. We're finalizing the Hong Kong expansion." "Good morning, Rowan. I'm all ready." "Fitted." He finally looked up. She was wearing a simple pale blue sheath dress. Fitted for what, the gardener's luncheon? That's what you're wearing. No, Rowan, this is for my charity board meeting this morning. My gown for tonight is already pressed. Which one is it? He demanded, walking to the espresso machine. The one I showed you, the dark green silk. Rowan sighed, a sound of profound theatrical disappointment. The green one. Anna, I told you Irina is wearing custom Valeriano. The press release just went out. She's going to be in crimson. I need you to compete, not fade into the wallpaper. That green dress makes you look like a librarian. Irina. The name hung in the air, thick and toxic. Irina Sanchez was a social media influencer and brand strategist who had attached herself to Rowan 6 months ago. At first, Anna had assumed it was a professional flirtation. Now it was a public affair. Irina was everything Anna was not: loud, plastic, demanding, and utterly obsessed with fame. Rowan, it turned out, was utterly obsessed with her. The green dress is appropriate, Anna said, her voice even. Her training, a lifetime of it, knew how to hide the tremor. Appropriate, Rowan scoffed, taking a sip of espresso. That's the problem. You're always appropriate. You're never stunning. You're never dangerous. You're just there. Do you know what my investors see when they look at you? Anna looked at him, her heart a cold, heavy stone. What do they see, Rowan? They see a liability, he snapped. They see a quiet, mousy woman who doesn't understand the power game. I'm getting the Visionary of the Year award tonight at the Metropolitan Innovators Gala. Me. And I'll be damned if you're going to stand next to me, looking like you're attending a PTA meeting. Call your stylist. Tell her to find something. Anything else. Something with sequins, something in gold. Show some skin. Try to look like you're alive. He didn't wait for a reply. He grabbed his briefcase and walked out. The heavy door of the penthouse clicked shut, echoing in the vast, silent room. Anna sat there for a full minute. The mask of calm remained, but a single tear traced a hot path down her cheek. She'd tried so hard to be the wife he wanted, the simple Anna Vance. She had hidden her lineage, her wealth, her power, all to be loved for who she was. And this was the result. She picked up her own phone. She didn't call a stylist. She called a different number one, secured and routed through Zurich. A quiet, accented voice answered on the first ring. Sarah. Good morning. Good morning, you're high. Anna. She corrected a note of exhaustion in her voice. Just Anna, please. Not until... not unless. Anna, her assistant, Sarah, corrected herself. Is everything all right? Sarah was not just an assistant. She was her lady-in-waiting, a close friend from her real life, currently posing as a New York social secretary. He's taking her tonight, Anna said, her voice low. He's going to have her on the red carpet. The protocol, then? Sarah asked. Her voice was suddenly all business. No. Not yet, Anna whispered. I need to see it. I need to see it for myself. I need to be absolutely sure that there is nothing left to save. Anna, he's humiliating you. Your father, my father will understand that I had to be certain, Anna interrupted. But Sarah, please, enact the contingency. Have the team on standby. Have them in the city, just in case. In the city, that's a significant move. He called me dead weight, Sarah. Anna said, the tear finally dropping onto her hand. He has no idea what he's dealing with. Let him have his night. Let him have his award. Let him have her. I'll wear the green dress. I'll be the wallpaper. And I'll watch him destroy himself. She hung up, stood, and walked to her dressing room. She looked past the green gown to the small framed photo on her vanity. It was of her and her father, standing on a balcony, overlooking a sparkling ancient city. He was in full royal regalia, she in a simple white dress. The caption read, "Eldoria National Day." "Just a little longer, Papa," she whispered. "He needs to learn." The black Escalade moved through the congested Manhattan streets like a shark. Inside, the silence was thicker than the humidity. Rowan was typing furiously on his phone, his brow furrowed. Anna suspected he was texting Irina, coordinating their accidental red carpet meeting. Anna, against his wishes, wore the green dress. It was not a librarian dress. It was a custom floor-length silk gown by Madame Dubois, a reclusive Parisian artisan whose client list consisted of approximately 15 women in the world, most of whom were queens or billionaires. It was a dark forest green with no sequins, no cutouts. Its power was in its perfect minimalist structure, a dress so exquisitely cut it seemed to float around her. Rowan, whose taste ran to the gaudy labels of Valeriano and Versace, simply couldn't comprehend it. "I can't believe you wore that," he muttered as they pulled up to the curb in front of the Metropolitan Museum. The night air was electric with flashbulbs and shouting. "You'll have Irina," Anna said, her voice flat. "I'm sure she will be distracting." "Damn right," he said, not even registering her tone. He got out of the car, adjusting his custom tuxedo. He offered Anna a perfunctory hand, pulling her out onto the curb and immediately into the wall of sound. Rowan Thorne. Over here. Mr. Thorne, Helios Dynamics. A word for the Met set. Rowan beamed, his public face snapping into place. He was a god of industry, and this was his Olympus. He placed a hand on Anna's back, a proprietary, cold gesture for the cameras. "My wife Anna and I are just thrilled to be here," he said to Deidre Shaw, a reporter with a shark-like smile. "The Innovators Gala is doing such vital work." "Anna, you look understated," Deidre said, her eyes raking over the green dress with mild disappointment. "Rowan, everyone's talking about the H2 project. Are you really going to power all of Hong Kong?" "We're not just going to power it, Deidre. We're going to change it," Rowan said, puffing up. "Helios is the future, and the future is Rowan Darling." A voice like shattered glass cut through the din. A crimson Bentley convertible had pulled up right behind their Escalade, a flagrant breach of protocol. And out stepped Irina Sanchez. She was a vision in fire engine red. The Valeriano gown was an engineering marvel of strategically placed fabric, showcasing her surgically enhanced figure. It was backless, sleeveless, and slit to the hip. Diamonds glittered at her throat and wrists. She was, as Rowan had desired, dangerous. Rowan's hand immediately dropped from Anna's back. A slow, genuine smile spread across his face. "Irina," he breathed. The press went into a frenzy. This was the shot they wanted. The love triangle, the public power play. "Irina, over here. Who are you wearing? Irina, are you and Rowan Thorne official?" Irina sauntered over, gliding past Anna as if she were a coat check attendant. "Oh, Anna, hi," she said, a dismissive flick of her eyes. "Love the color. So earthy." She then turned and wrapped her arms around Rowan's neck, kissing him full on the mouth. It wasn't a peck. It was a long, slow, camera-ready kiss. The flashes exploded, turning the night into a strobing, agonizing whiteout. Anna stood frozen a foot away. She became invisible. The reporters, the photographers, they all turned their backs on her, creating a circle around Rowan and Irina. "Rowan, you devil," Deidre Shaw cackled. "That's a custom Valeriano, isn't it? You two are the ultimate power couple." Rowan laughed, his arm now snaked firmly around Irina's bare waist. He pulled her against his side. "She's my good luck charm," he announced to the crowd, loud enough for Anna to hear clearly. "A man needs a partner who isn't afraid of the spotlight, right?" He posed for photo after photo. Rowan and Irina. Rowan grabbing Irina's chin playfully. Irina laughing, her head thrown back. Anna was left standing on the edge of the carpet alone. The crowd simply parted around her. A security guard, seeing her abandoned, gestured vaguely. "Ma'am, are you—" "With the party. You need to move inside." Move inside. She had been erased. Her husband, in front of the entire New York media, had publicly and purposefully replaced her. Her royal training was the only thing holding her upright. Poise, her father's voice echoed in her head. A queen does not flinch. She does not tremble. She endures. And then she acts. But she was not a queen. Not here. Here she was, just Anna Vance, the discarded wife. She looked at Rowan. He caught her eye over Irina's shoulder. He wasn't apologetic. He wasn't even guilty. He gave her a small, impatient shrug, as if to say, "What did you expect?" That was the moment. The final hairline fracture that split her heart in two. The hope she'd harbored that this was a phase that the Rowan she'd married was still in there, it died. It withered on the steps of the Met under the brutal glare of the paparazzi. With a dignity she didn't feel, Anna turned her back on the scene. She held her head high and walked up the grand staircase, the green silk of her dress whispering behind her. She walked into the gala alone. Rowan didn't notice she was gone for a full 5 minutes. The great hall was a sea of glittering tables, towering floral arrangements, and the deafening roar of New York's elite. Waiters carrying trays of champagne and caviar-topped blinis navigated the designer-clad crowd. Anna secured a glass of water and found her table. Table 1. The head table. The one reserved for the visionary of the year. She saw the place cards. In the center, Mr. Rowan Thorne. To his right, Ms. Irina Sanchez. To his left, next to a junior board member, she'd never met Mrs. Anna Thorne. He hadn't just brought his mistress. He had given her the seat of honor. Anna's seat. She stood by the chair, her hand resting on its back. This was a calculated move designed to humiliate her, to push her out, to make her be the one to cause a scene by demanding her rightful place. He was trying to provoke her into being the crazy wife, so he could be the victim. She would not give him the satisfaction. She took a deep breath, picked up her own place card, Mrs. Anna Thorne, and quietly moved it. She placed it at the far end of the table between a tech journalist and an elderly philanthropist. She then took that seat, her back straight, and began to sip her water, as if this was precisely where she was meant to be. A few moments later, Rowan arrived, flush with his red carpet victory. Irina was clinging to his arm, her red dress a slash of color in the gilded room. "Rowan, darling, they put you right in the center as you should be," Irina trilled. Rowan nodded, pleased, and then his eyes scanned the table. He saw Anna at the far end, speaking quietly with the philanthropist, Mrs. Adler. His face tightened in annoyance. He had wanted the confrontation. He had wanted her to cry, to yell, to demand Irina leave, so he could sigh and tell the table, "You see what I have to deal with." Her compliance, her poise was infuriating to him. He sat pulling out the chair for Irina, who settled into Anna's spot like a queen claiming a throne. The dinner began. It was a slow-motion torture. From her vantage point, Anna had a perfect view of her husband and his mistress. She watched as Rowan placed his hand on Irina's thigh. She watched as he whispered in her ear, making her laugh a loud, abrasive bray. She watched him feed Irina a bite of his seared foie gras. The table filled with Rowan's board members and fellow tech titans pointedly ignored the dynamic. They spoke to Rowan about projections. They spoke to Irina about her brand. They did not speak to Anna at all. This was the part that hurt the most. These were people she had hosted in her home. She had planned their dinners, charmed their wives, remembered their children's names. And now, in the face of Rowan's public infidelity, they had all turned away. Because he had the power. Finally, Claire Cunningham, a rival socialite with a notoriously sharp tongue, slithered over from another table. "Anna, darling," Claire said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "You are being so incredibly brave. Just sitting there watching this. It's like a car crash. Rowan is just impossible, isn't he? And that dress on Irina. It's screaming so loud I can barely hear myself think." This was not support. It was a social attack designed to see if Anna would crack. Anna gave Claire a small, cool smile. "Claire, how kind of you to come over. I'm not being brave. I'm just enjoying the salmon. And Rowan is... Rowan. You know how he loves his vision. I find it's best to just let him focus." Claire's smile faltered, disappointed by the lack of drama. "Well, you're a better woman than I." She slinked away. Anna's composure was paper-thin. She felt the eyes of the entire room on her. They were whispering. "Look at her. She's just letting it happen. She has no self-respect." She had to get up. She needed air. "Excuse me," she murmured to Mrs. Adler. She rose and walked not to the main exit, but toward the terrace doors. Her legs felt weak. The sound of the party faded, replaced by the cool night air and the distant sound of sirens. She gripped the cold stone balustrade overlooking the park. The mask shattered. Her shoulders hitched, and a dry, silent sob escaped her. She had failed. She had tried to be a normal person, and she had been broken by a man who didn't deserve her. She'd given him her trust, her support, and through her family's fund, the very money that built his empire. And he had paid her back with this. She pulled out her phone. Her fingers trembled as she typed the text to Sarah. "It's worse than I thought. He's made his move. I'm done. Execute the protocol." A reply came back instantly. "Understood. The asset is in place. He is waiting for your signal." A new feeling pushed past the grief. It was cold, sharp, and familiar. It was the feeling of power. Not the flashy, desperate power Rowan craved, but the deep, quiet, tectonic power of her bloodline. She took one last, shuddering breath of the city air, wiping the single tear from her cheek. She reapplied her lipstick. The mask was back in place, but this time it was not the mask of a victim. It was the mask of a monarch. She turned and walked back into the ballroom, her green dress flowing behind her. She was no longer Anna Vance, the long-suffering wife. She was Ariana, Princess of Eldoria, and the party was just getting home-started. Anna returned to her seat just as the salad plates were being cleared. The mood at the table had grown louder, fueled by champagne and Rowan's colossal ego. He was holding court, regaling the table with a story about his hostile takeover of a smaller competitor. "So I told him," Rowan boomed. "I said, You can either walk away with your dignity, or I can take your dignity and your company. He chose poorly. The table laughed, a chorus of sycophants. You're a shark, Rowan. A total killer. Irina purred, running a red, taloned finger down his lapel. That's why you're a visionary. And he's... well, who even remembers his name? Exactly, Rowan said, throwing back his champagne. His eyes, cold and assessing, landed on Anna at the far end of the table. That's the lesson. You have to be a killer. You have to be ruthless. You have to cut away the dead weight, the things that hold you back. Right, Anna? The entire table went silent. He was addressing her directly. This was it. Anna met his gaze. Her voice was steady, projecting perfectly to every person at the table. I've always found that sharks, Rowan, are rather predictable. All appetite, no finesse. They're impressive, I suppose, until they meet a blue whale. An animal of true, immense, and quiet power. The metaphor and the ice in her tone took him by surprise. The tech journalist began to scribble notes. Rowan's face flushed a dark, angry red. He had expected her to cower. She had instead insulted him. Irina, sensing the shift, jumped in. Oh, Anna, always with the quiet power. So boring. While you're off arranging flowers for the hospital guild, I'm helping Rowan close deals. That's real power. This dress, she gestured to her own body, has probably closed more deals tonight than your entire charity budget. That's quite possible, Anna replied, her smile never wavering. We clearly operate in very different markets, Irina. You seem to be in the business of short-term rentals. I prefer long-term investments, things that last, like heritage, and of art. The double entendre was exquisite. The elderly philanthropist Mrs. Adler choked on her water, trying to hide a laugh. Irina not bright enough to catch the nuance, but sharp enough to feel the sting was furious. You condescending little... Enough! Rowan slammed his hand on the table, rattling the silverware. The entire ballroom, it seemed, turned to look. He was losing control. She had gotten under his skin. He stood up, walked the length of the table, and loomed over her. His face was a mask of fury. Who the hell do you think you are? He hissed, his voice low and venomous. I'm your wife, Rowan, she said, still seated, forcing him to look down on her. You're nothing, he seethed. You're a nobody. You are a Vance from Boston, which means nothing. You brought nothing to this marriage. No money, no connections I couldn't get myself. You are just... there. You are a piece of decorative, obsolete, background scenery. He was projecting. He was describing himself without her. Is that so? She asked, her voice dangerously calm. Yes, that is so. He was shaking with rage. This is my night, my award. I am the visionary. And you're just the dead weight I've been talking about. Honest to God, Irina at least understands the power of this room. You're just taking up a good seat. This was it, the final public degradation. Rowan, don't, whispered the CFO David Hayes from across the table. He looked pale. Don't. What, David? Tell the truth, Rowan snarled. He then did the unforgivable. He reached down and grabbed Anna's upper arm, his fingers digging in like talons. He hauled her to her feet. Get up, he commanded. Go home. You're embarrassing me. A collective gasp went through the nearby tables. Deidre Shaw, the reporter, was already typing on her phone, her eyes wide with malicious glee. Anna looked at his hand on her arm. She looked at his twisted, angry face. She felt no fear, only a profound, cold pity. "Let go of me, Rowan," she said. "Or what?" he sneered. "You'll go write in your diary. You'll go look at your dusty paintings." "No," she said, her voice clear as a bell. "I'll make a phone call." He laughed, a short, ugly sound. "A phone call? To who? Your gardener, the hospital guild?" He shoved her hard toward the exit. "Get out! I am sick of looking at your pathetic, mousy face." Anna stumbled, catching herself on the back of a chair. The entire room was watching now. The music had stopped. She straightened her dress. She smoothed the silk on her arm where his fingers had been. She looked at him, and for the first time that night, Rowan saw something in her eyes he had never seen before. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't anger. It was authority. "As you wish," she said. She turned not toward the main exit, but toward the private corridor at the side of the stage, the one leading to the green rooms. "Where is she going?" Irina scoffed. "Probably to cry in the bathroom." "Let her," Rowan said, adjusting his tuxedo, trying to regain his composure. "The trash just took itself out." He returned to his seat, breathing heavily, but a smirk of triumph on his face. He had finally won. He had broken her. He poured himself a fresh glass of champagne. He had no idea he had just signed his own death warrant. While Anna made her exit Rowan's CFO, David Hayes leaned in his face the color of ash. "Rowan." "That was a mistake," David whispered, his eyes darting around. "It was a necessity," Rowan snapped. "She was undermining me. Now pour yourself a drink, David. We're about to be honored." "Rowan, you don't understand." David pressed his voice, strained. "I got an alert during dinner. A red flag from our equity partners." Rowan's good mood instantly vanished. What red flag? The Hong Kong deal?" "No, our primary investors, the Eldorian Sovereign Fund, the ones who hold 60% of our equity." "What about them?" Rowan said, trying to sound casual. Helios Dynamics was built on a mountain of debt, leveraged against the green technology he'd promised to deliver. His vision was in fact a high-stakes gamble. The project was over budget and months behind schedule. He had been cooking the books for the quarterly reports, hiding the burn rate, and desperately needed another round of funding. The Eldorian Fund, faceless, silent, and based in Europe, was his entire lifeline. "They've been silent for 3 months, David said, sweating. "You know we're leveraged to the hilt. The new project in the South China Sea. It's a cash bonfire. We're burning through 50 million a week. The Eldorian tranche. The next $500 million. It was due yesterday." Rowan's heart hammered. "They'll pay. It's a clerical delay. They're old-world Europeans. They move slow." "They don't move slow when it comes to interest, Rowan," David hissed. "The penalty clauses in that agreement. If they call our loan, we are insolvent. Not just the company. You. You signed a personal guarantee against the entire B round. We would be bankrupt by Tuesday." Rowan stared at him. Bankrupt. The word was absurd. He was in a $10,000 tuxedo, about to win Visionary of the Year. "Yes. Bankrupt," David confirmed. "I've been emailing their representative in Zurich all day. Nothing. Just awaiting instructions. Then 10 minutes ago I get this." He slid his phone under the table. It was a one-line email from the fund's legal counsel. "We are aware of the situation. A principal is now on site and assessing the investment viability. Do not proceed with any announcements." Rowan went cold. "A principal is on site?" "Here at this gala. That's what it says," David whispered. Rowan's mind raced. He scanned the room, his eyes darting over the hedge, fund managers, the tech billionaires. Who was the Eldorian principal? Was it the elderly Mrs. Adler who Anna had been talking to? Was it that rival from the other table? He suddenly felt a primal gut-twisting fear. His whole empire, his entire life, was a house of cards. He'd been so focused on the social humiliation of his wife, he hadn't realized his financial humiliation was imminent. "This award," Rowan said, his voice now a strained whisper. "My speech. I have to nail it. I have to project confidence. Whoever this principal is, they need to see that I am Helios Dynamics, that I am the vision. They're here to see the king." "Rowan, I think you should be humble," David advised. "Thank the investors. Thank Anna. You just threw your wife out of the gala, man. What if this principal saw that it looks unstable?" "No," Rowan said, his arrogance reasserting itself, fueled by panic. "It shows strength. It shows I'm ruthless. That's what they invested in. I'm a shark. Remember, they need to know the shark is still hungry." He looked toward Irina, who was busy taking a selfie, pouting her lips. She was his good luck charm, his partner. But looking at her now, he saw only a shallow, expensive liability. He had hitched his wagon to her, and in doing so had just publicly alienated his quiet, stable, old money wife. Right at the moment, he might need her connections the most. He had always assumed Anna's Vance family was just comfortable. What if they weren't? What if her old money was real money? A sick feeling rose in his throat. "And now," a voice boomed from the stage, "the main event. Please welcome our host, James Calloway." Rowan stood up, his legs shaking. He had to give the speech of his life. He had to save his company. James Calloway, a charismatic news anchor, took the stage to thunderous applause. "Good evening, innovators. Tonight, we honor a man who has looked at the sun and, well, he decided to bottle it. He is the mind behind Helios Dynamics, a company that has redefined green energy. Ladies and gentlemen, the visionary of the year, Mr. Rowan Thorne." A spotlight hit their table. Rowan stood. He straightened his tie. He saw David Hayes's terrified face. He saw Irina's adoring, vacant smile. He kissed Irina, a long, possessive kiss for the cameras. It was a mark of ownership, a desperate signal of power. "This is for us," he whispered to her, then strode toward the stage. He accepted the heavy crystal award. He gripped the sides of the podium, the bright lights warming his face, and his panic began to subside, replaced by his familiar, godlike ego. He was a visionary. He was the king. That principal from the Eldorian Fund was out there, watching, and he would dazzle them. "Thank you." He began, his voice smooth as velvet. "Thank you, James. Thank you to the board. Visionary. That's a powerful word." He paused, looking out over the sea of faces. A visionary sees what others cannot. A visionary is not afraid of the future. They are not afraid to be ruthless. They are not afraid to make the hard decisions, to cut away the parts that are failing to shed the dead weight that holds them back. He was in his element now. "My company, Helios Dynamics, is the future. We are building towers of light. We are powering the world. But you don't do that by being timid." He let the word timid hang in the air. "I've had people in my life, well-meaning people, who see my ambition, and they flinch. They're afraid. I'd tell them I wanted to build a tower that touched the sky, and they'd ask me if the zoning board would approve." A ripple of knowing laughter went through the crowd. Many of them had heard him use this veiled insult against Anna before. "They'd ask me about zoning," he repeated, smiling. They'd ask me about appropriate timelines and sustainable growth. They are the wallpaper of the world, necessary, I suppose, but you never ever notice them. The camera panned to his table, focusing on the empty seat where Anna had been. Then it panned to Irina, who blew him a kiss. The future, Rowan continued, does not belong to the wallpaper. It belongs to the bold. It belongs to the fire. You need a partner in this life who understands the fight. Someone who isn't afraid to be in the spotlight, who isn't afraid to burn. Someone who sees your tower and asks you what color the penthouse will be. The crowd applauded. It was a good line. So I accept this award not just for myself, but for that spirit, the spirit of disruption, the spirit that knows when to hold on and when to let go. He was looking right at the empty chair now, a public final dismissal. My wife, Anna, she's a wonderful woman, from a different time, a time of quiet galleries and dusty books. But the world is moving fast, and I, for one, refuse to be left behind. He raised the Crystal Award. Thank you. Let's go build the future. The applause was deafening. He had done it. He had defined his own narrative. He was the ruthless visionary. Anna was the past. Irina was the future. Surely the Eldorian principal in the audience had seen that. He was a winner. He walked off stage high on adrenaline and embraced Irina, who was waiting in the wings. You were amazing, darling. Dead weight. Wallpaper. You destroyed her, Irina gushed. I just told the truth, Rowan said, feeling invincible. It was in that moment of supreme triumph that James Calloway, the host, walked back to the podium, his face pale and his hands visibly shaking. Ladies and gentlemen, Calloway stammered, reading from a card that had just been handed to him. We have an unscheduled addition to the program. A surprise guest, a patron of this institution and a significant figure in global finance. He has requested a moment to speak. Rowan and Irina paused, watching from the side of the stage. Please, Calloway said, his voice cracking, please welcome to the stage His Majesty King Theron of Eldoria. While Rowan had been delivering his speech, a very different scene had been unfolding outside. A diplomatic convoy consisting of 3 black Mercedes-Maybach sedans and 2 police escort vehicles had pulled silently into the museum's private staff entrance, far from the red carpet. The vehicles bore no license plates, only the golden diplomatic crest of the Griffin. The moment the vehicles stopped, a team of 6 men, all in sharp black suits with earpieces, exited and formed a perimeter. They were not hotel security. They were the Eldorian Royal Guard. The door of the lead car was opened by a tall man with a severe face, Gregor the King's head of security. Out stepped His Majesty King Theron of Eldoria. He was a man in his late 60s, tall, with a full head of silver hair and a trimmed white beard. He was in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, but across his chest he wore the crimson sash of the Order of the Griffin, and pinned to his lapel was the star of the Order. This was not a man attending a party. This was a mono or soldat on state business. He looked up at the gaudy lights of the gala with an expression of profound disdain. Gregor, the king said, his voice a low, cultured rumble. Is the princess secure? Yes, your majesty. She is in the green room as requested. She has given the signal. The humiliation is complete. Good, the king said, a cold fire in his blue eyes. I gave that boy 3 years. 3 years to see the jewel he held, and he tried to trade her for glass. He will learn the difference tonight. The king and his entourage swept through the back corridors of the museum. The event staff, seeing the sash, the security, and the sheer undeniable aura of command, simply melted out of his way. They reached the private green room where Anna had gone. She stood when he entered. The mousy wife was gone. In her place stood a princess. Her back was straight, her chin was high, and her eyes were the same cold, assessing blue as her father's. "Papa," she said, inclining her head. He walked to her and kissed her forehead. "Ariana, my daughter, you have endured. I am so proud and so very angry. He put his hands on me." She whispered, the last trace of Anna surfacing. The king's eyes hardened. "I know. I watched it on the security feed. Gregor, you have your orders." "Yes, your majesty," Gregor said. "This is not just about a bad marriage, Ariana." The king continued, taking her hand. "This is about an insult to the crown. Helios Dynamics was your project, your attempt to build something good in the world. He has corrupted it, and he has humiliated you. This ends now." "What about the speech?" she asked. "What about it?" "He's about to accept his award. He's going to use the stage." A thin, dangerous smile crossed the king's face. "Excellent. Let him climb as high as he can. It will make the fall so much more visionary." He turned to his equerry. "It is time. Inform the host." The equerry nodded and slipped out of the room. He found James Calloway, just as Rowan was walking off stage, high on his own applause. "Mr. Calloway," the equerry said, flashing diplomatic credentials. "Who?" "What, I'm busy," Calloway said, flustered. "You will listen. His Majesty King Theron of Eldoria is here. He is a principal patron of this museum, and he is the primary stakeholder in tonight's visionary company. He will be speaking next." Calloway's blood ran cold. King Theron, the reclusive, absurdly wealthy monarch whose nation was essentially a private sovereign bank. Here. He's not on the list. "He is now," the equerry said. "Announce him." Calloway, looking at the royal guard flanking the corridor, nearly fainted. He stumbled back to the podium, his heart pounding, and made the announcement that silenced the room. The silence in the ballroom was absolute. You could hear the ice melting in 1,000 glasses. King Theron of Eldoria. Here. Rowan and Irina, standing in the wings, froze. Rowan's face went white. "Eldoria," he whispered. "Eldorian Sovereign Fund." "What?" Irina said, annoyed. "Who is that?" "He interrupted your moment." "Shut up, Irina." Rowan hissed, his entire body trembling. "Just shut up." King Theron walked onto the stage. He didn't hurry. He moved with a measured, regal pace that commanded the entire space. He adjusted the microphone, his eyes sweeping the shocked, upturned faces of New York's elite. "Good evening." His voice boomed, rich with a slight, unplaceable European accent. "I apologize for interrupting your celebration. I am not, as a rule, a fan of galas. I am here tonight for 2 reasons. 1, as a patron, and 2, as a father." A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. The king's eyes found Rowan, who was paralyzed by the side of the stage. "Mr. Rowan Thorne," the king called out. The spotlight, which had been on the podium, swung to find Rowan pinning him like a frightened animal. "Mr. Thorne," the king continued, his voice laced with contempt. "A visionary, a shark, a killer. These are the words you use to describe yourself. Your speech was very passionate. You spoke of vision, but it seems your vision is critically limited. You failed to see what was right in front of you. Rowan was suffocating. No, you spoke of your wife, the king said, his voice rising in anger. You called her wallpaper. You called her dead weight. You dismissed her as a Vance from Boston. The king paused. Allow me to correct the record. Her name is not Anna Vance. That is a name she took in your country to live a simple life, to find a man who might love her for her heart and not her station. He turned and gestured to the wings opposite where Rowan was standing. Allow me to introduce my daughter. Anna walked onto the stage. The green dress which Rowan had called boring now looked under the stage lights like it was spun from emeralds. She was no longer hunched in humiliation. She stood tall, her posture perfect, her face serene and powerful. She looked in every way like what she was. This, the king announced, his voice echoing in the stunned silence, is Her Royal Highness, Princess Ariana of Eldoria. A collective shattering gasp filled the room. Deidre Shaw, the reporter, dropped her phone. David Hayes, the CFO, looked like he was having a heart attack. Irina's jaw went slack, her painted red mouth forming a perfect O of horror. Rowan simply shook his head, muttering, No, that's a lie. That's impossible. You belittled her, the king thundered, pointing a finger at Rowan. You humiliated her. You put your hands on her. You did this in a room full of people, unaware that my people were also watching. You spoke of dead weight, Mr. Thorne. The king continued, his voice dropping to a dangerous icy level. Let me be clear. The only dead weight in your life was your company, Helios Dynamics, a company my daughter, Princess Ariana, personally advocated for. The king walked to the center of the stage. You have been sending your falsified optimistic reports to an anonymous fund in Zurich. Mr. Thorne, that fund is Eldoria, and Eldoria is me. He looked at Anna. No, that is incorrect. It is her. Anna stepped forward to the microphone. Her voice, no longer mousy or timid, rang out with the clarity of a crystal bell. Rowan, she said. The entire room hung on her every word. The Eldorian Sovereign Fund, which owns 60% of Helios Dynamics, is me. I am the chair of the board. I am the principal you've been waiting for. I am your investor. I am your boss. Rowan Thorne's legs gave out. He physically collapsed against the stage wall, sliding to the floor. Bankrupt, he choked out. Bankrupt. 60%. Irina whispered, her eyes wide with greedy, horrified calculation. She's a billionaire. A princess. Anna's eyes swept the room. I wanted a marriage, Rowan, not a merger. I wanted a partner who saw me not a title or a bank account. I see now that was a mistake. You were right about one thing. You do need a killer partner. She gave him a cold, devastating smile. And you had one. You just never realized it. The ballroom was in chaos. The press, who had been cordoned off, broke through the velvet ropes. Cameras flashed not at the stage, but at the crumpled heap that was Rowan Thorne and the horror-struck visage of Irina Sanchez. Mr. Thorne, is it true? Are you bankrupt? Princess Ariana, Princess Ariana. On stage, Anna continued, her voice cutting through the noise. Effective immediately, the board of Helios Dynamics, my board, has called an emergency session. You, Rowan, are suspended as CEO, pending a full and independent forensic audit into your expenditures and your projections." She looked pointedly at Irina, who was still frozen in her crimson dress. "A full audit, including all corporate apartments, all travel and all consulting fees paid in the last 12 months. Irina finally understood. She wasn't just losing a billionaire boyfriend. She was now implicated in his fraud. The vision Rowan had been selling was a lie, and the money he'd been spending on her was Anna's. Panicked Irina did the only thing she knew how. She scrambled for the new source of power. "Anna!" she cried, stumbling toward the stage. Princess! Oh my God! I had no idea. He told me you two were separated. He told me you were nobody. I'm a victim in this too." She tried to climb the small stairs to the stage. Gregor, the king's head of security, simply stepped in her path. A wall of unmoving muscle. Anna looked down at the weeping, desperate socialite, the woman who an hour ago had called her boring and earthy. "Leave," Anna said, her voice quiet, but carrying the unmistakable weight of a royal command. Irina stopped, her face a grotesque mask of tears and melting makeup. But, we could be partners. I have a brand I can... Leave," Anna repeated, turning her back. Irina, humiliated beyond recovery, let out a wail, turned and fled the ballroom, her red dress trailing behind her like a streak of blood. The cameras turned back to Rowan. He was on his hands and knees, trying to stand. Anna, he begged, crawling toward the stage. "Honey, Princess, wait. We can fix this. It was a misunderstanding. I love you. I've always loved you. I was stressed. The business, it was all for you." He reached the edge of the stage, his hands gripping the carpet. He looked up, his face destroyed by panic and pathetic pleading tears. Anna looked down at him. The man she had once loved. The man who had called her dead weight. "You didn't love me, Rowan," she said, her voice devoid of all emotion. "You loved the idea of me. And when that idea wasn't useful, you tried to destroy it. You didn't destroy me. You just revealed yourself." "No. Please. Ariana." "I'll do anything. Don't take the company. It's my life." "No," Anna said. "It was my money. Your life. Rowan is whatever you can build without it." She turned to her father. "Papa, I'm ready to go home." "As you wish, Your Highness," King Theron said, offering her his arm. They walked off the stage together, a portrait of regal, absolute power. The royal guard formed a perfect circle around them, parting the sea of reporters and stunned guests. They exited through the same private door they'd entered, leaving the chaos behind. Rowan Thorne was left alone on the floor, the bright hot lights of the cameras blinding him. His Visionary of the Year award lay forgotten on the floor a few feet away, a shard of meaningless crystal. He had flown too close to the sun, and he had just been burned to ash. The last thing he saw before the security guards physically hauled him out of the ballroom was his CFO, David Hayes, already on the phone with the company's lawyers, his face grim. The shark had met the whale, and the whale had won. Anna and her father emerged into the cool night air. The Maybach was waiting its door open. As she got in, her assistant, Sarah, was waiting inside with a glass of water and a warm blanket. "It is done, Your Highness," Sarah said gently. Anna nodded, leaning her head back against the plush leather. She closed her eyes. She was not Anna Vance, the quiet wife. She was not Ariana, the avenging princess. She was, for the first time in 3 years, just free. "Take us to the airfield, Gregor," the king commanded. "The jet is waiting. We're going home." The car pulled silently away from the curb, leaving the circus of the gala, the flashes of the cameras, and the ruin of Rowan Thorn behind. What happens when arrogance and ambition collide with true hidden power? The story of Rowan Thorn and Princess Ariana is a brutal modern-day fable. Rowan, blinded by his own ego, saw women as accessories, either a quiet wallpaper wife or a flashy trophy mistress. He never thought to look deeper. He never realized that the dead weight he so cruelly discarded was in fact the very hand holding him up. Ariana's revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't a slap or a scream. It was a cold, calculated and complete dismantling of the empire he loved more than any person. She didn't just take his company. She took his name, his reputation, and his future all in one devastating reveal. Rowan learned the hard way. True power doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need a red dress or a crystal award. True power just is, and it always wins. Thank you for watching our story. If you were as gripped by Ariana's ultimate triumph as we were, we need your help. Please hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to see karma delivered, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss a single story of justice and revenge.